Manifesting Modern Miracles, a book brimming with enlightenment and encouragement. The stories within are awe-inspiring and rewarding. What makes this book such a valuable resource is the simple fact that these are real stories, authored by real people, chronicling real miracles in everyday life. A simple and powerful reminder that divinity is everywhere. Everyone has, whether they realize it or not, a story to tell of miracles. I've believed in miracles my whole life. Of course, because I believed in them, I also saw them. I experienced miracles fully, time and time again, as I grew up, from sudden flashes of inspiration to full-blown, out-of-this-world, miraculous manifestations. I've seen them everywhere and always. Every time I experienced a miracle, it would strengthen my faith in them, which of course would attract greater and greater miracles, and so on. I've realized where my unshakable belief in the miraculous has come from. It's from the greatest lesson my mum ever taught me. It'll always be all right in the end. Those simple and comforting words might seem to some a bit naive, but to me, they laid the foundation for a lifetime of knowing that no problem was ever too big to be solved, no situation too sticky, no bully too strong, no dream unachievable. In fact, I don't think she even knew the magnitude of what she had taught me. The words weren't just comforting, they were the key to living without fear. She was my mother, so I believed her. And for that reason, every problem I ever encountered always miraculously worked itself out. Not always without pain, not always without suffering. By the grace of that great cosmic power, the solutions always manifested. There were my miracles, thousands of them. It was always all right in the end. Conditioning is such a huge part of how we think, and therefore what we experience. We most often speak of conditioning as a bad thing, referencing the limiting and fear-inducing wisdom that we inherit from our parents or teachers and politicians and so on. We know that children who grow up being told they'll never amount to much rarely do, and that children who grow up in volatile homes are more likely to experience violence as adults. But the same is true the other way around. The miracles I've experienced in my life were both a gift from the divine, but also my own doing, because I had been conditioned both by my mother and by the evidential experiences I had as a result of her wisdom to believe so fully in miracles that the universe had no choice but to manifest them for me. So I lived with the conditioned belief that miracles come about when needed. But it took me a good number of years to understand how, and of course, I still haven't and never will. But what I have understood is that life is a craft that can be mastered, and the same infinite power that produces the miracles is the power that flows through us and steers our lives in the direction of our thinking. What ignited my journey to this understanding was a simple question from my husband. We had moved recently from England to the United States with a 6-week-old daughter, leaving behind a stable, decade-long career in business strategy. I was in a new home, in a new country, with a new baby, and the future was wide open ahead of me. I had no path to tread, no tracks to follow, and the sheer width of the horizon was overwhelming. "So, what do you want to do?" he asked. And with no pre-approved answer available in my archives of The Way It Is, I had no choice but to put some thought to it. I remembered what I'd always wanted to do when I was a little girl. I wanted to write a book. "But it's so hard to get published," said fear of failure. "You can't come up with a story that hasn't been told before," said inadequacy. And authors don't make any money. It's probably best to stick to business, said common sense. Do it, said my husband. Up until that point, nothing professional had inspired me at all, which is, of course, why my working life, although of great service, had been stagnant in my heart for so long. But now my mother's words danced to the tune of my soul song, finally playing loud enough for me to hear it. Somehow it would work out. It had to, because it always does. Some miracle would make it work. So, with no experience or any idea of how I was going to achieve anything, I picked up a pen. And since then, I've enjoyed many successes, including collaborating with New York Times bestselling authors, publishing internationally through Simon & Schuster, working on an award-winning documentary about the art of limitation called The New 8-Bit Heroes. And I even got to interview my hero, 21 times best-selling fantasy author Piers Anthony. You were in the right place at the right time, that's all, said Skeptic. And it's true. Even Piers Anthony himself told me that to succeed as an author, you need to be extraordinarily lucky. But I was so fascinated by how my success had come about that I embarked on a mission to understand exactly what luck is. And after hundreds of books in hundreds of fields, from quantum science to theology, this is my conclusion. Luck is the craft of being available for miracles to occur. And that was the key to it all. My mother's wisdom had created a pattern of thinking that truly set me up to be a successful co-creator of my life. When I reached this realization, I went from being solidly agnostic to becoming deeply spiritual. So, how do we master this craft? The answer is written within this book, Manifesting Modern Miracles, hidden in the pages of these inspiring stories. And as with the case of Amy Hardwick, as she wrote in her chapter, A Birthday Miracle, sometimes all it takes is a book to get us on the way. There is a very specific process involved in allowing miracles to take form in our lives, lyrically but truthfully laid out in Tending Mind's Garden by Lisa Spooner. Of course, although the process is universal, our approach to that process must necessarily be unique to us. The chapter by Tonya Brown, Minting Miracles, is a useful tool for remembering the steps, and Vandana Medonka provides in her chapter, Soul Miracles, some examples of the personalized nature of our approach to the process. The first step is to believe that miracles are even possible. As we learn in the chapter by Angela N. Holton, Believe, Expect, Receive, miracles are simply the signs of God's work, the essence of divine movement to and through us. The power we wield as human extensions of this divine movement is beyond expression, though a thought-provoking summary is provided in Catherine Madeira's chapter, Structures of Life. Small or big, miracles are as real and as common as other unseen elements like air or ether. These are metaphysical principles that align with modern science. But whether you achieve this faith through prayer, meditation, or scientific study doesn't matter. The scientist who thinks about life as an unfolding of possibilities in an eternal quantum field of potential knows that reality is nothing more than one's perspective. The theologian who knows that all things from thought to matter come from the same unformed substance known as the body of God is sure to realize he is as capable of miracles as his creator. The psychologist who understands that subconscious paradigms drive our actions far more than our desires do knows that a reconditioning of our thinking can drastically alter our experience. Even adults can condition their habitual thought patterns to produce results so miraculous their faith will strengthen daily, not unlike the miracle of transformation told beautifully in Tracy Carlson's Everyday Miracles. A paradigm shift caused by the slightest adjustment in our perception is enough to cause a ripple effect that soon has us totally immersed in the business of creation. A colourful example of total immersion is found in Barbara McKay's My Ford F-150 XTR Super Crew. The second step is to release resistance. Most people would probably deny being resistant to miraculous results, but in truth it can be very hard to operate our lives in alignment with divine flow, especially if we don't know what flow feels like. Frustration, bitterness, boredom, stress, anger, and so on are all a breeding ground for negative thought. And by learning to let go of these and remaining undisturbed by inharmonious situations, we release destructive power and let only one force the space to operate within us, the divine. The chapter by Antoinette Coleman Kelly, Stepping Delightfully Forward, is a demonstration of the incredible results achieved by letting go. One of the greatest lessons in this regard is found in the chapter by Kelly Vass, She Chose Happily Ever After, and in Journey to Love by Connie McQueen. Namely, that self-love is the secret ingredient when it comes to igniting chains of miraculous moments. In fact, as experienced by Sharon Gambrell in her story, A Miraculous Move, sometimes just finally believing yourself worthy is enough to set off the miraculous chain of events. But the most important step is in allowing. And this is where it gets tricky for some. Because in order to allow miracles to occur, we have to first develop the ability to identify what they look like. Helena Kurowska writes in Moments of Grace that we so often dismiss miracles as coincidences, but more often than not, these seemingly minor coincidences are in truth powerful divine synchronicities. As we learn in the chapter by Donna Jutras Toby, All I Need is a Miracle, synchronicities are a part of the manifesting process, and acting on them is paramount when it comes to bringing miracles into our experience. Dr. Scott Ferreira writes in his chapter, A Divine Journey of the Heart, of the importance of trusting in ourselves and in divine guidance, whatever form that takes in your life. And sometimes, as chronicled in Lisa Hardwick's Miraculous Messengers, that guidance can take its form in most surprising little manifestations indeed. In my experience, it is this trust that lets us fearlessly leap when opportunities arise. And they do arise millions of times a day for everyone, regardless of the circumstance. It's not luck. It's a case of spotting the synchronicities, identifying them as signs of unformed miracles, and allowing ourselves to act to bring them into reality. And sometimes, as with Deborah Bates' stories, in her story, Messenger of Light, it is we who are the real miracle. This is simply how the divine operates. The chapter authored by Katina Gillespie, The Day My World Stopped, may well be one of the most inspiring stories of divinity in operation that I have ever read. It is truly a real-life miracle story, from death to survival and from survival to rebirth. Trish Bowie likewise tells in her story, Moving Beyond the Unknown, about how the darkest and most harrowing tragedies can ignite the heart's journey towards miracle. The reason it sometimes takes extreme sorrow and grief for miracles to show up is actually down to the common attribute of the human ego, control. What does it take for us to relinquish control? How far can we push ourselves before we let the divine work through us? Embracing adversity with tenacity, patience, and faith as Mimi Tran demonstrated working on her aunt's farm, as recounted in Believe in Yourself, is also known as the law of non-resistance. When you have released everything there is that is no longer a corresponding vibration within you to which adversity can attach itself. But of course, nobody needs to wait for a tragedy to occur to bring miracles into their life. My own humble story points to a lifetime of miracles in action, although I have had my share of sorrow. Bullying at school led to a crisis of identity, which led to a decade of alcohol abuse, which led to plummeting self-esteem that didn't help when my best friend was killed in a car accident, and so on. But that's not the story I tell. We all have that story. I choose to talk about the blessings and successes that have been far more prevalent. The actual reason Manifesting Modern Miracles is such a significant and powerful book lies in exactly that. These are real stories about real miracles experienced by real people, as unique and evolving as you and I. In truth, the ability to manifest or allow miracles into our lives doesn't give us a free ticket to a lifetime without adversity. No, that's not what miracles are for. Life is duality, and it is in the contrasts of our experiences that we grow. But they do give us the tools to embrace that duality and to know when we're standing knee-deep in a terrible mess, that the infinite wisdom, power, and grace that created all things also knows how to fix this sticky situation. And we, created in the image of God, do too. For this reason alone, rest assured, it'll be all right in the end.